Hey, wake up! It's time to start the show. Glad to see you all aboard Mouse Ears in Paradise. Let's get this show rolling.
Welcome to Mouse Ears in Paradise. I am Dave.
And I'm Becky.
Hello.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode.
That's right. And this week we are going to be talking about the other side of D23. I wouldn't call it the anti-D23, but
maybe.
Becky and the two younger kids did not go to the D23 Ultimate Fan event presented by Visa.
Formerly known as the Expo.
Formerly known as the D23 Expo. They went to the parks instead, but were down there during that time. And this has been a strategy you've used in the past. And almost didn't do this time. Yeah,
I think we've talked about a little bit on this show how I didn't think I was going to go down for D23, but then I started to have FOMO. And then really what the thing happened is, so I work as a elementary school teacher, and the teacher week schedule came out. And because I teach PE, I didn't actually have to be at work on Friday and Monday. And so I realized, like, hey, we actually have time to go. So maybe instead of being home by myself with the youngest two, maybe we'll tag along since we're already paying for a hotel room anyways.
And this was, I don't know, weeks?
Yeah.
Maybe a month ahead?
Maybe 4 weeks, maybe 3. Like, it was very last minute. Which is sort of out of character. It was like fun. Becky showed up.
It was
Becky of the past.
I didn't really believe it because, like, I had booked a hotel September of last year. I think.
I know.
And bought tickets and everything. So even airfare was purchased and weren't planning on you coming.
That's how That's what we were just outside of 3 weeks because my Southwest tickets were not crazy. And I know, like, if I'd waited like 2 more days, it would have been not feasible. But we talked a little bit about how I ended up having enough Southwest miles for the 3 of us to go for free. And so we bought the tickets that Disney was running through September that were a 3-day specially priced ticket. So we did go on the weekend, so it wasn't as cheap as it could be, but the kids each had tickets for $199 for 3 days, and then mine was $299. So the fact that we saved a fair amount of money on that, I think really did play a role. And then for the first time ever, we bought non-park hopper tickets to go.
That's a big deal.
It was kind of a big deal, and I really didn't know how I would feel about it. I think now I would keep my $70 and just not do park hoppers for the time being. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is. But so it ended up costing us essentially $600 to go for 3 days. I mean, plus like food, which was not cheap, but we did it. And I would say it was worth it. It was definitely worth it at this time because we ended up looking for Annika, like what to do too. And it is actually cheaper to go for 3 days than 2 if you use that specially priced ticket. So that did play a little bit of a role too in how many days we went for. But we had back to school night on Thursday. So we got up on Friday morning, drove to the airport and went down and started in Disneyland.
Because you got in, I don't know, 10 a.m.?
Yeah,
like
our flight left at we were in the parks by 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Which was not bad. And park wait times were not terrible either. I cannot not have Lightning Lane. Like, I can't not.
And that's the way they want you.
I know. It's really sad. So $90 a day for us to have Lightning Lane.
So you kind of have to factor that into the park tickets.
You do have to factor that in. In fact, we're planning a trip for Thanksgiving.
Which we know is going to be crazy. We've done this many, many years. So we know. We know better, but we're going to probably do it anyways. We're going to do it anyways.
But I think the thing I landed on was that you were better off spending the money on Genie Plus than you were on a park hopper pass.
You mean
or on Lightning Lane
multi-pass
than you are. See, oh my goodness, come on, Disney. Because, well, here's part of the deal. I guess we'll just launch into this. So we did Disneyland, California Adventure, Disneyland. California Adventure is not a full day park right now. There's no show in the theater.
No.
The animation building is closed.
Yeah, they were doing renovation during that time.
Yeah.
They were doing they took down a lot of stuff right for the expo, the week of the expo, which seems really peculiar, but I guess they consider that the off season, and they're now, which is the summer's the off season.
Yeah. So I just was going to pull up.
It is the end of the summer, I guess, and so
they're entitled to do this.
Some schools were already back in, and not all, but
yeah, I mean, a lot of people did think we were nuts for going because of the week that it was, which is fine. But so if you go to California Adventure, like the amount of attractions that require Genie Plus is actually quite small. Right? Like you have Goofy Sky School. I refuse to ride Grizzly River Run because I can't be that wet. We don't do Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, just because those two are
and we don't ride an Incredicoaster. So there's like 3 right there that we just don't do. Little Mermaid, we use. Monsters. I should have counted this before. Sorry, everybody. 6. So there's 6 attractions that we used for Lightning Lane Plus at California Adventure. I guess if you divide 6 by 30, like that's $5 an attraction to skip the line. Was it worth it? Yeah, because I wasn't going to go and do any of those without them.
Especially when it's just you and the two little ones.
The two kids. But because you're only looking at 6 attractions, really you can ride that in about 3 hours if you're using Lightning Lane. And then you have Radiator Racers, which I refuse to pay another $75 for the 3 of us to ride, so I make us stand in line for that one. But we have done this twice now where we have gotten in line and it says like an hour. And it takes us almost 2 hours to get through that line because that ride breaks down all the time. It's torturous. Like,
yeah, thankfully there's a fair amount of shade, but it's still pretty hot back there.
It is. So we ended up, this is what I ended up doing. I ended up giving the children my phone, and there's like switchbacks, right? And so I'd be like, okay, you're going to sit right here and you're going to watch YouTube together on this phone, and I'm going to go through the switchbacks. So I would put them at like a cement step with a stanchion kind of nearby it, and then like, because you know how there's like different buildings.
Right.
So you can see them, right?
Yeah.
You're just putting them from the front of the building to the end of the building, and I'm not making them walk back and forth. I just told them,
right,
sit
where they're
down.
going to have to pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure people thought I was nuts. But, and I realized that like if everybody did this, it would get very confusing. But it sort of feels like maybe we need to, Florida Dumbo this ride where everybody gets a pager.
Yeah.
And you can go
do
through
other
the
things.
queue.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if I have to stay in the queue, but do I really have to walk back and forth for 2 hours on these? And so they did have a time where the ride broke, and they're like, we don't recommend leaving the line. We will get it up. But it was like 20 minutes of no forward movement, and everybody did eventually sit down on the cement. And I just feel like, I don't know, $26 is what it would have cost us to skip the line. And I feel like that's a lot for one attraction.
Yeah,
I just really struggle with that. I would have paid $5 a piece to skip the line for that one, but I just can't. I don't know. I think my threshold was 15. I think that's what I decided, but it just drives me crazy to the point where like it sort of steals the joy of the ride.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we don't actually need to do this attraction.
It's a good one, unfortunately. And
it is.
And the kids love it. Yeah, so it's...
And it's really, of all the like thrill rides, the most family friendly in California Adventure, which is why. So all that to say, because we paid for Lightning Lane multi-pass, we had 2 hours to stand in the cars line, and it didn't really affect our day because we had done everything else.
Because you still get to do everything else. And you guys still did stuff over on well, when I Pixar Pier.
Yeah,
whatever.
we did. I mean, we did all the other,
The
the other
little
cars
things.
rides, the little attractions, and the wait times were great during this event, so that was kind of nice. Like, it was not. There were a lot of times like Mater was a walk on, but like, it was just enough that you felt like, I don't know, like I'm not gonna stand in an hour line with 2 kids for Soarin', and they're gonna want to do it. So
Yeah.
I guess I'll pay my $90 and just.
At least some of that's air conditioned.
Yeah, well, that's true. At least some of that is air conditioned.
And then did you do web slingers?
And we did web slingers, which is also, they love web slingers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which is mostly shaded and then air conditioned.
yeah. The other thing that happened in California Adventure that was kind of interesting. So, Goofy Sky School is one the kids really like too. And Emma figured out she could do the single rider line. So, there was another little girl who was doing the single rider line just over and over. And I was like, can I go with her? And I said, sure, go ahead. So we did the Lightning Lane Multipass Road, Goofy Sky School. Then they both wanted to do it again because they liked it so much. So I get back in line with Drew, and then Emma just maybe rode it like 4 or 5 times in the
Yikes.
single rider line, and then got on with me and Drew. And like,
How would you
was
not
like-
puke after that?
she's like, can I go again? I'm like, I think 6 is enough. Like, we probably don't need to keep going.
It's a fairly intense ride for like,
Yeah,
What
I
it
mean,
is.
it is what it is. It's not, if you're not stressed about getting flung off the top, I think it's probably fine.
well, it whips you around a lot.
It does whip
right?
you around.
Like,
Yeah, I was done after 2, but so that was kind of interesting. And I do like in that park, like, I got a lot of likes in here. I sound like Valley Girl. But I enjoy that most of those attractions are small enough. You can see your kids wherever you are. Like Tomaters, you're nearby. Luigi's, there's just a lot of, it's not that big, really, when it comes down to it. So I was never uncomfortable with not being able to see her because I could stand in the general queue and see where she was. So that was an interesting way to pass the time of how are we going to wait for this attraction. It wouldn't work for everything, but it did work for this one. So that was kind of fun. In general, I mean, California just needs some love. California Adventure needs some love. I mean, they're trying, supposedly.
with the animation building being down,
Down.
I mean, that's Turtle Talk with Crush, that's Animation, Animation Academy.
Mm-hmm.
There's the meet and greet in there. What else? It's been closed for a while,
Yeah,
but the
but-
Beast
library.
So
Yeah, it was good. We did see, this was kind of a fun thing. We ran into the cast of Descendants 3 on
the Rise of Red.
The Rise of Red. So that was really neat. We were walking down, and all of a sudden Emma's like, those are the Descendants. And they were doing a meet and greet behind, like near where that Coca-Cola truck is.
Right.
Yeah. So that was cool. We got a couple of pictures with all of them, and they were really nice to the kids. Like the way they handled and worked the crowd was really impressive because they're essentially, I wouldn't say necessarily teens, but they're certainly young adults. Like you can see where they would not necessarily have the skills to manage that well, but they really did a good job with all the kids because there were probably 25, 30 kids between the ages of maybe 8 to 13 that were pretty into the fact they were out there. And they really worked the crowd well and just were kind and offered to, nobody had to ask for a photo. They always offered to be like, would you like a picture with me? Which I thought was like, clearly these kids do. Like they would really love this. So the fact that they were gracious and generous and just really approachable, I thought was really cool. Like they didn't need to be that way. They could have just shook hands and said hi, but they were very gracious. So that was super cool. It was a nice surprise.
Any highlights for food or snacks in California Adventure this year?
That is
Or
a
this
good
trip?
question. We struggled with food this trip
okay.
because it's me and the youngest two who are not great eaters.
Yeah,
So we always
moody and picky eaters.
moody and picky. Our real key to success in California Adventure is the Bodine's, formerly Bodine's. Now it's Aunt Cass's Cafe, and we get a loaf of bread, and the kids will just gobble that bread up. Like they just will survive on bread.
Yep.
And it's fine with me. Have some bread and a chocolate milk, and we'll call it good. But so I would say the food was a little bit lackluster. We ate at Smoke Jumpers that night.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Somebody wanted that, or
yeah, it was
why.
based on a child. We probably should have not been so gracious.
In hindsight.
In hindsight, we should have had a better plan. I didn't have anything that really stood out.
Treats either?
No, it's just hard. It's just hard to get to. I got the s'mores Rice Krispie treat to bring home that night from the candy store there. And it was good. I mean, it was a Rice Krispie treat with chocolate on top, which is kind of hard to screw up. And they did not screw it up, so that's good.
Good.
No, nothing that I was super excited about necessarily.
Okay.
But the 2 days surrounding that we spent at Disneyland, and day one in particular was a really good day. Like we went, and the kids hadn't been since November of 2023. So it had been, 9 months essentially since they've been, and they were excited about going. We did use Lightning Lane Multipass both days. And I did the math, and it came out to about $3 a ride to skip the line. And when I think of it that way, like I'll pay $3 every time to skip the ride. If they charged me per ride and gave me $3, I would just charge it every time. It was totally worth it.
Shh, don't let them hear you.
I know, sorry. But so that was a really, really fun experience. We did have a virtual queue for the Haunted Mansion during this trip, which was kind of interesting. The queue is closed or under construction, but they're letting people ride. So you have to join a virtual queue, and you don't have to be in the park to join the virtual queue. You have to have a ticket or a reservation for that day, but you don't have to be in the park. And so I actually joined it in the cab on the way to the airport, or from the airport to the hotel.
Okay.
Kind of on accident, because I was looking at it to try and see like where they were. And then they're like, you're in the queue. I'm like, oh, okay, well, hope we're not going to miss that. But it ended up working out really well. They call your number, and you've got an hour essentially to get over there and ride the ride. And it looks quite chaotic on the outside, but we were inside the attraction within 15 minutes. And I thought, if they can do this for this ride, they could do this for every ride. And my experience would be a million times better, I think.
We had a slightly different experience for Haunted Mansion, because we got to the parks on that Thursday around 2, I think.
Yeah.
And got the virtual queue. Didn't know we could do it before that, but we did not get into it until, what was it? Like 10 o'clock or something.
Yeah, you guys were there late, which is unfortunate.
It took a long time before our number came up. And it kept it must have been breaking down or something, because it would move a bunch, but then not. And I don't know if people just weren't showing up or what was going on, but it took a long time. And then we ended up we were done, and we were just waiting over at the restaurant right there. Why am I blanking?
Tiana's?
Yeah.
Or
whatever.
Cafe Orleans?
Cafe Orleans.
Okay.
We were sitting at Cafe Orleans, and Phantasmic is going off. And another group sat down at the table next to us, and they're like, you waiting too? And yep, they were also waiting for so I think there were a lot of people just like, all right, we're done. We don't want to do anything.
Waiting to get on this one
get
attraction.
on this attraction, and then we can go home.
Yeah.
So it was a late night. We were exhausted, but yeah, didn't want to miss it either, because we didn't know if we'd have the chance any other time.
Yeah, I understand that. I thought it was a good experience for us. I mean, it was.
It was just more that we had to wait so long.
Yeah, I can see that. I would have been frustrated. I mean, we would have just given up and gone the next day, but not Dave. Dave doesn't give up. My kids were enamored with Batuu this trip. We talked a little bit about this, but Star Wars Land was a huge pull for both kids.
Why do you think that was?
So it's very immersive, which they both enjoy.
Sure.
Drew, who's 5, is very into the idea of lightsabers. Like, he won't watch a Star Wars show. Even The Young Jedi doesn't really appeal to him. But he really enjoys being out on the street, and then he'll always be looking for the Kylo Ren show, and he always wants to find the stormtroopers, and the stormtroopers kind of give you a hard time, and
he knows who they all are. Like,
Yeah.
we have a bunch of figurines, and like he can tell you who they all are, and, and who's good, who's bad, and everything. So like, it's not that he doesn't know who they are.
Yeah, and I think like you don't have to just. It's not so much a destination, right? Like, you're not moving from attraction to attraction to attraction. You're there to be in the land, and somehow they relax in that. And so they'll just kind of putz around and look at the robots, and oftentimes there'll be cast members out driving the droids, and they will get a kick out of that, and they'll sit and play with the droids for a while. And I know they're trying to sell them, but they never actually ask for a droid. They're just kind of happy to hang out and play the cast member who's, entertaining them with this motorized droid. And then Chewie will come, and they, go for a little walk with Chewie. And the Mandalorian kind of scared him a little bit. I don't know why. Both of them were a little intimidated by that.
That's weird.
It was. But they were all into Ahsoka and Rey. There's a lot of characters out. There's a lot of characters out.
And you kind of don't know when or where you'll see them either, I feel like. I mean, there's I know where Chewie's usually at the edge of the shopping area. But.
And they do it so different. Like, you're not standing in a line to meet them. You're like joining the character in whatever they're doing for the day, right? And they're very good about like, somehow everybody gets a photo, but nobody's waiting in line, and it's sort of like photos on the move.
Yeah, they're always moving. It's like, okay, we'll take a picture, and then we're going to keep moving. Okay, we're going to take a picture, and then keep moving. And
so it feels less like standing in a cement jungle to me, and more about, it's kind of like you're visiting somewhere, which is what, it's doing exactly what they want you to do. So I'm also really enjoying Rise of Resistance. We've ridden that a couple of times now, where it's been 45 minutes of a wait, and that line kind of cruises, really. Like,
it usually moves pretty good.
It moves well.
There's a lot of kind of definitely shaded. You get inside to the shaded area pretty quickly, I feel like, and then it's air conditioned, and there's a lot of seating
to sit.
It's very intentional.
Yeah, they did a good job on that queue, where it doesn't drain me quite like if I'm going to stand in line and Mr. Toad's for 30 minutes, I'm going to come out of that line crabby.
Yeah, it's very tight in there. Like,
but 45 minutes for Rise of Resistance, no problem. Like, we can do that all day long. So we did have a weird thing where, they put you on these colors with other families, and a family stole our color. So that was a little bit odd. We're like...
Did you take their color then? Or
because you're supposed to follow your color all the way through. You stand on gray, you get in the gray, and they went in our front row seat of the droid transport. It's like, I don't want to stand in this line again for a front row seat.
When you go into the one room, though, it is kind of hard to see the colors.
Yeah,
it could be that they just like.
I
know in our group there was people confused about which one is which. Yeah. Like, I don't know if it was like orange and red, and it's kind of hard to tell because there's like a red light in there. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but it's still annoying, even if it was not ill-intentioned.
No, I understand. I will too. I think they were just legitimately confused.
If you've never done the ride before, it's a bit confusing and disorienting because it's different.
Because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we got a food there, but I don't remember what it was.
Well, you did try an experience.
Are we going to mention this? This is a little bit embarrassing. I tried to go to Oga's Cantina with the 2 kids by myself.
And you had a reservation.
I had a reservation. It was at 2:00. I thought, like, we'll just go in and get something cold to drink. And I knew we had to sit with other people. I knew there would be like this series of things that happened. But we checked in for our reservation. And first of all, they're like, I realize they're dealing with a lot of people, but they're not necessarily friendly. And maybe that's part of the shtick. I don't know. Like, you're supposed to be a traveler and they're just here moving the travelers through. But it was confusing. So we finally get checked in, and I think we had to wait about 20 minutes in the doorway before we were seated. And the kids were getting a little bit squirrely at that point. Like, if I'm going to check in for a reservation, my time clock kind of starts with kids. It starts then.
Yeah, because they're ready and
Yeah.
excited and anxious and like.
And we
everything.
kind of talked about this and looked at some pictures, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. So we get in there, and they sit us like as close to the doorway as you possibly can with two other groups who they're like, can you guys scoot over in the booth? And they just looked at her like, what? And they're like, you need to move over. And so we're kind of already cramping some people's styles.
Yeah, you're putting them out, and they know that it's not your fault, but
Yeah.
like still.
And then I think we waited 10 to 15 minutes with not even eye contact from a server. Like nothing. So my kids are getting squirrely. They're starting to put their feet in other people's places because we're 35 minutes in, which is kind of what I allotted for this activity. Like I figured, okay, I'm taking two kids to a bar. I realize that's kind of bonkers, but I'll pay. Like I'll order the drinks, pay at the same time, and call it good.
Right,
and, and then we can go whenever we need to.
Go
But
at
now
your own
we're
speed.
35 minutes in. We've got nothing.
And yeah, who knows how long it's going to take to even get the drink once you order it.
So we ended up walking out. We just got up and left, and I convinced them, let's go to the parade and we'll go sit down and watch the parade and get ice cream instead. And they had kind of built up the experience in their head, so they really didn't want to go. But this ended up being one of my best decisions of the trip. So we went
And I tried to warn you, like,
You did.
if it's not working, just go, leave.
for what it's worth, Dave definitely empowered me to be like, you can go in and not order anything and it will be fine. And so I think because he had said that, I felt like Dave said I could do this. So I got up and I left.
It's kind of the vibe of the place. Like, I've been in there, I think, 3 times now, and like, I bet they didn't even.
They probably didn't even notice.
They didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Nobody was.
It's just odd. It's just different. And I don't know that I'm afraid of sharing a table. Like, I really enjoy Beer Garden at Epcot, where you go and you're with other. We've had some great experiences there, particularly when it's just the two of us and then you get seated with other couples. That can be really fun. But, and even on the cruise ship, like we've shared tables on the cruise ship, and then we've gone to birthday parties after we're off the cruise. So like, I'm not opposed to sharing things with people I don't know, but, the parade was great. So we went and found a spot near the Alice bathrooms, because that's my parade spot. I like to be near there. And actually we went a little bit past the bathrooms and sat right on the edge, and we were in the shade. It's
usually shaded. Yeah, I was going to say.
In the shade. And the other side was super sunny, so there wasn't a lot of people over there. I think every character who walked down on the parade came and gave Drew and Emma a high five. Like every single character that wasn't attached to the floats, they got something from. And I think
awesome. Everybody
on the float like pointed and waved at them. So that ended up being a really great experience. It's a good way to see the characters. It was great.
Yeah.
So
it's unfortunate that I still would like for you to experience some of the drinks and stuff, because they're fun and they're different and like it's an experience. But yeah, I've had the time where you're going to be standing. Here's a little corner of this table that is your whole groups.
Yeah, and I'm really fine with that. I think if we had 2 adults, it might have been better, but probably not. I probably still would have been like, this is for the well, I started doing the math. I was like, this is going to be a $60 activity for me to get 5 minutes of enjoyment. If I bail and go to this parade, I can buy them each a $7 ice cream, and I'm $21. And yep, that's the right choice right there. So yeah, I don't regret it. I mean, I still got to see the inside. I guess, I don't know.
The place, if it was twice as big, it would still be packed.
It would still be packed.
It's kind of, it's a missed opportunity. It feels like they could increase the capacity of that and still be plenty packed, and not be less efficient or anything.
No,
like, there's always a line outside for standby.
Always a line.
So I don't know. And ideally, there would even be a more full restaurant experience, but
Yeah.
But they don't need to right now. There's clearly enough demand. But like, if they ever felt like they had too much capacity, they could increase the amount of food in there and be totally fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, so yeah, I would say there were just a couple of things that my takeaways were. Like, we can still have fun at Disneyland, which sounds kind of funny, but I think the youngest two are not as flexible as the oldest one is. And so sometimes traveling with them is a lot more difficult than what we were accustomed to with the oldest. I think it's a personality issue and not so much a parenting issue at this point. I mean, we have parenting issues. Don't get me wrong.
We're not perfect.
But that's the conclusion I've come to. So the key to success has been like always, it's managing expectations. But I think I have to manage my expectations a little better. Like, I've always been a proponent of find yourself one thing for you as the parent. I don't know if these two I'm going to be able to. Like, I think I'm going to have to let go of anything for me at this point.
You got the ice cream.
No, I didn't, because what happened was...
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't know if you know the story. So Emma wanted an Oreo Mickey, whatever. So I got her an Oreo Mickey. I ordered from Gibson Girl a sundae for me and an ice cream for Drew, which he wanted, and then left Emma with the stroller. She's old enough. Like, I left Emma with the stroller on Main Street and then went down to get my Gibson Girl ice cream. And then when I got there, Drew found the sucker in the confectionery and he's like, I really want this sucker. So I canceled the ice cream.
Oh,
and
I did know
he
that.
did
That's
get
right,
the sucker, and I got...
and you were the sucker.
Nothing, and I was the sucker. But you know what I had? I had Happy Kids.
Yeah, that's priceless.
Which was priceless. So I guess my kids are spoiled. I don't know. We could talk a little bit, I think, about the food at Disneyland, which I feel like has really gone... Downhill. We ate Rancho Zocalo. I'm just going to tell you, I'll save your money. Do not go there. It's not.
We had the burritos, and I mean, it's interesting because I was listening to another podcast, and the person was talking about how they loved the burrito.
Oh, really?
And they thought it was fantastic, and it has a lot of flavor, but not enough meat. Like, at least
it's a lot of beans and rice.
A lot of beans and rice, and a lot of sauce, but
nothing else. Like, no, I don't know.
Yeah. The menu isn't, we used to get what was it that we used to get the
carne asada.
The carne asada, that was killer. That was great.
But
they used to have other burritos that had a lot more stuff in them, or in a round that you could kind of enhance it.
I will say I think my favorite place now is Pizza Planet. Which, who would have thought that?
I do think that the pizza is better than it used to be.
Yeah, and I got stir-fried vegetables and chicken with noodles. And if I could go buy that right now, I would go buy that right now for dinner. Like, it was great.
That's crazy.
And I think anytime I can get like some fresh veggies in my meal at Disneyland, I mean, they're probably frozen, truly, but they were good enough. And then they got that alien macaron. Like, that's really all I need. And we should have just gone back there a couple of nights, because it kind of met everybody's needs. They had something for everybody there. So I do like Pizza Planet. Give that one a try.
It's just crazy, because that used to be not on the list. It used to be not on our list at all. But I mean, I feel like there's because of the changes we've seen at the ones we used to like, we should probably check the other ones that we haven't liked as much, that presumably their menus have changed too. So like, I'm thinking like River Belle Terrace. And
for sure.
Plaza Inn, I don't think we had a problem with. It's just, it requires more planning.
And I'll say, like, part of my goal was to keep things kind of on the cheap. Like, we were This was an impromptu trip. It was not necessarily a family vacation in the sense that we were split up. So all of our breakfasts, we stayed off property. We did all breakfast at the hotel.
Yep.
I got, a couple cereals and milk for the kids to have upstairs, and that was good enough for breakfast.
And it was moderately short trip too.
It was, and that helped, I think. And we canceled some of our dining reservations just because of the expo, which in retrospect we probably should have held on to. But live and learn. It's hard to know some days what's going to happen and ringing it up. We did go the day we were in California Adventure, when I realized we're going to finish this park lickety split. I made a last minute reservation at Storytellers for the character lunch. And that was a big win too. So the kids, I think they were each $39. And I'm telling you, my kids ate $39 worth of food.
Which is a big gamble because it's possible they didn't eat $3 worth of food.
It is. But I think Emma had 5 waffles and probably a full bowl of whipped cream. You know how they have those whipped cream bowls? I mean, she went back to that whipped cream bowl 4 or 5 times. And
because at that point it's get your $39 worth, kid. Go
it was. And I've never had this happen, but we sat down, the 3 of us, and I had a character handler come to my table before even the server came in and said, we want to make sure you see all 5 of our characters. If that does not happen before you're ready to go, please come find me so I can make sure that all of our characters visit you guys. I was like, what?
Well, it's not as crowded usually during lunch, so it's probably harder for them to do it. Oh, really?
It was hopping. Okay. Yeah. So we ended up, it's me and 3 kids. I had 1 child who needed to use the bathroom in the middle of lunch. So we go, and I get back, and Emma's flipping out because we have missed a character, and they're going to go, it was almost 2:00 at this point, which is kind of when things start to shut down. And I was like, well, let me go ask. So I go and I find this gentleman, and I was like, hey, we actually haven't seen Mickey Mouse yet. And he goes, where are you sitting? And I showed him, and he's like, we will be there. And he, within 5 minutes, Mickey was at our table. And then he just made sure that we got to see everybody. I was so impressed. I was like, I feel kind of bad because I don't, I know you kind of have a system. He's like, no, this is what my job is. So thank you for telling me. Yeah, I was I should have written a cast compliment now that I'm bragging about him on the podcast. But so that was well worth it. I think the food there is good. It was probably the best meal I had on our trip. Sorry.
Even if, were you guys doing the buffet?
Yeah, it was a buffet.
Okay, because even the stuff off the menu can be pretty good for lunch. It's kind of underrated for that.
Yeah. So I think next trip I would book that again. It's just, it's expensive. They did give me 10% off for my Disney Visa, so that was nice.
Because I wasn't with you.
Because you weren't with me to give me your annual pass discount. But I think it's worth it. You're meeting all these characters, and the kids were kind of into the signing of the autograph books, which is a nice way to keep them engaged. And
making memories.
It was, I felt like we did it. I felt like, okay, we got to see the friends and do the things, and everybody ate, and it was air conditioned. It really was a win all around.
And someone's bringing you
Somebody
drink
was bringing
refills.
me food. I mean, they didn't bring me food, but
Drinks.
It's a safe place that I felt like I could leave both kids at the table while I got more food. There just was a lot of wins there for me. So I give it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, Emma's getting old enough now that she can kind of at least sound the alarm if things go bad.
Yeah, if things go awry,
Drew runs off.
She will take care of it, and you will hear her. So, yeah, but overall, I would say it was actually one of our better Disneyland experiences we've had recently. We've kind of, granted, we've been going at Thanksgiving because that's what has generally worked for the family. This was probably
we've replaced a Disney trip with the
cruises. Yeah. Which I might still enjoy more, but that's okay. So it was good. I would do it again. It's different going as one parent with 2 kids, as I'm sure a lot of people know. if you are running the show with one parent, it's challenging. But I think it's still worth doing. There's still a lot of good and still a lot of ways to make it work. So the kids got a lot out of it. It's fun to hear Drew now as we're back, like talking about the attractions, which is, I don't know, we've kind of decided as part of the family lore, right? Like this is what Annika's grown up in, and you know, she has all these memories. It doesn't really seem fair to not get those to, like, we don't want our children in 20 years to be sitting down being like, yeah, remember when mom and dad took us to Disneyland? And the other two being like, what? You went to Disneyland? Yeah, every 8 weeks. Like,
yeah, those were different times.
They were different times, but
yeah, I mean, I think Annika, by the time she was 1, she had been to Disney World once and Disneyland 3 times or something.
It was ridiculous.
By the time she was 1 year old.
It was ridiculous.
So things were a little different in her
it cost
day.
a lot less too.
Yeah, it did. And it was easier to move around with her, just one. So,
yeah.
But, yeah.
All right. Well, that's my report.
All right. Well, it was. You seemed happy for most of it, and the kids seemed happy. So that I was
Day 3
glad.
was a little rough. We could have done 2 days and been a lot happier, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never know.
You never know what you're going to get.
Could have been the best day too.
And I will say they really enjoyed the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail, which we have often skipped recently because Annika's outgrown it, essentially. But because it was just me with the younger kids, we spent probably a good hour plus there. And that really was a highlight for them, just a chance to run around and have a little freedom and then, you know, do the hands and find out what animal you were. And it was about 93, 94 degrees. So there were a bunch of kids with their shoes off, splashing in the water. And I think that it kind of re-energized.
Because it's pretty shaded back there. It's usually
it was
cool.
comfortable. It was comfortable. So 2 thumbs up.
Right on. All right, so this week we have our magical moment. So Becky, what is your magical moment of the week?
My magical moment is I did something totally frivolous with our children because it's a holiday weekend. We went to a cat cafe, which is really not a cafe as so much as like a cat petting zoo. So a friend of mine had posted that they had done this. I was like, you know what? We need an activity for this weekend. Let's go. We'll go pet cats. Surely this will bring people joy.
And Annika had done a birthday party that did something similar. I don't know if it was the same place, but something
No, it wasn't
similar.
the same place. But this is now like a thing that you can go and play with kittens. So we go over to this cat. And I should have like researched it a little bit before. But we go and it is $10 per person if you are under 12 and $15 per person if you are over 12. So we paid $50 to go pet kittens for 30 minutes, which is the most ludicrous thing in the whole world. And we could have just lit the $50 bill on fire. But you know what? We don't have a pet and we're not getting a pet. And so
I'm allergic to cats.
You're allergic to cats.
One reason I did not attend, and
it was
also
sort of a
another
gift
reason
to
we
you,
don't.
like here's some peace and quiet. So
and
I did.
That's also why we don't have a cat too.
Yeah. So we paid $50, and you have to put little slippers on over your shoes, and you go in, and they have all these like cat toys that you can jiggle around, and the cats will chase them, and then these cats are very tame, even though they're just kittens. Like some of them are just months old, and you sit down and they'll come and sit in your lap and they'll purr, and they're very people friendly, which is sort of the antithesis of being a cat. But it was a good experience. I would not do it again this weekend, but it was an event and we did it. And
you made a memory.
And we went to a different part of town, and the kids were like, this is different. I was like, yes, it is.
That's good for them to see something different.
You know, it's good to know that not everything is like suburbia, and you can do other things. And really, it sort of is interesting how, especially living in the Bay, like you can visit little tiny parts of the world just by visiting other places in your own city. Mm-hmm. So that was my magical moment for this week. How about you?
So I mean, people that have known or listened to us and for years would know that I collect slides, vintage slides of Disney stuff, Disneyland specifically. So going back to the early days, to the 50s and since. Slides really kind of phased out in the 80s, definitely by early 90s. So it's kind of the time frame that you can imagine, all the range. And I have been continuing to collect them, but not scanning them because of a bunch of construction that we were doing at the house. Everything was kind of just
torn apart.
But I finally got back to scanning them again, so that was great, and finding some treasures in there that I've acquired and being able to scan them and see them and look at them. So that was pretty good. I was excited about that.
What's your one that you thought was really cool?
Oh, so the one is it's from what I can tell so far. I need to play some more with it, but it seems like they are building the Swiss Family Tree House in the background, and in the foreground, it would appear that they are building New Orleans Square in the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
it's mostly a big hole in the ground and some cement walls, but I'm pretty certain that's what it is. I need to kind of do some more orienting on it, but that's what it seems like. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that one.
Awesome.
But yeah, you never know what you're going to find like that, little treasures, the things that are happening that might not mean anything to someone else, but if you have enough context or dig enough, you can find some cool things in there. So, yeah. All right. Well, I think that's everything for this week. But if you would like to email us, you can email us at mouseearsinparadise@gmail.com. And if you'd like a sticker, we still have some stickers available. So email us and put stickers in the subject line, and we will send one out. And hopefully by the time this episode goes out, I'll have the first batch sent, because we do have people that have already sent in. We still have plenty of stickers, so feel free to email us, and we will send you one out.
Awesome. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
Applause. We hope you've all enjoyed the show.